And welcome to an exciting episode of The Energy That Surrounds Us. We are being joined today doing a marathon on the awesome ETalk TV network. And as you can tell with live shows, there are last minute change-ups that we can't always account for. And so, unfortunately, our guests aren't able to make it today. However, we do have a very special, awesome guest who happens to be the founder of the ETalk TV network. So welcome back, Jeff.
Thanks, Michael. And I'm so happy that you're part of the marathon. I definitely know what you're going through right now. Not only did I have a lot of technical difficulties this morning getting my first show off the ground, which we spent a lot of time last night, so a big thank you to Dave Cruz and Gigi over at Shift Happens, and also congratulations to Gigi. He just did his 300th show with Shift Happens last night, so it was an awesome show. But yeah, they helped me after Gigi got done with this show. We all jumped on Zoom and fixed all my audio problems, thought we had everything fixed. I jump on a half hour before the show is supposed to start so we can start doing sound check, and my audio doesn't work on my side. I can't hear anything, and I'm like, what's going on here? And so I had to deal with that. Then the links weren't working for some reason for my guest to get on the show, so I'm trying to do that and figure out what my audio is all at the same time. So needless to say, we got a very late start. And so I definitely understand what you're going through.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and pinch hitting, because I know you were sitting through and watching all of these and going, really, another 2-hour episode? But I appreciate it, and I'm grateful to have you back on, because we were having so much fun the last time talking about what you're going through and some of the experiences you had that we actually ran out of time. So it's like, I'm excited, because it's like I feel like I can not only ask the questions. I ran out of time on the last one, but this is kind of like a preview of an upcoming episode of you're coming on Riding Through the Unknown. So this is like a really cool experience for me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, I'm happy to be back. I enjoyed the time last time. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, we had a lot of great conversations, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to today too. So I mean, yeah, whatever you want to do today, I'm open for, because yeah, it's fun to be here.
Right, and I mean, and for anyone looking for a network to join, this is a really awesome network. It's we have so much. It's one of those rare ones where we are free to do shows as we like, and he just sits by and he's like, "Hey, as long as you're not doing anything illegal, do what you like." And it's like there's a little bit of calm and serenity as a show host that comes with that. Of sitting there going, okay, so I can push the envelope with this show and not worry about upsetting the network and causing problems. So yeah, that's a blessing to have, and I appreciate that. And so I want to make sure and thank you for that.
My pleasure. That's I think we might have got into this a little bit. I'm not sure, but yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I created the network, is to create more freedom, especially because all the censoring that was happening a few years back. Well, and it's still happening today, but now we know about it, so it's not as much of a shock. But I don't support that kind of stuff in any way. I mean, anything that where you try to resist somebody's free will and stuff like that, I'm not for that. So, like you're just saying, I'm very open on what you can talk about here, but there are some things that, yes, I just don't feel is morally right, and so that might be where I draw a line with the show. But it's pretty much free to speak their mind, and that's what it was about. Is let me make a venue that they can't shut down. I mean, I can't say they couldn't shut down my web host, and shut me down that way through the website. But I'm trying to create a venue to where we can talk about the things that are important to not only us, but I think this planet. And I think there's a lot of people that are talking about a lot of great enlightening stuff, and how we're making great changes in this planet. And a lot of that's being repressed, and I don't want to be a part of that. I want to help move things forward. So again, that's why ETalk was created. So yeah,
And yeah,
do your shows and have fun.
and I gotta say, one of the things that kind of worked out great for me was in the show that you're coming on, the series that I have, Riding Through the Unknown, being kind of the disclosure style and turning into a story, revealing my past as well kind of series unexpectedly. It was really cool that I was like, I knew I had the freedom to do that, and I didn't have to come and check with you and say, hey, is it going to be okay doing this and all of that? Because I knew from other shows that you have on here that this series is probably more of a fit and less of a chance than the paranormal style shows, but still the paranormal is tied into it too. So it's really cool that there's the space available to explore that and not feel like I have to fall in the constraints of like Facebook's rules and what they're going to determine is right or wrong to share. And so, yes, thank you for allowing all of us here on the shows to do that.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, I mean, again, this is fun, and again, yeah, I like I give people that freedom too. I mean, because I mean, just from what I've studied in life, if you really want to expand and learn, you're going to learn from the things around you and stuff. And so, to allow people to have their own creative imagination helps me allows me to see different things and different versions of things. So maybe I can create something new and exciting as well, or kind of maybe steal their idea in a sense and use it to help the network in many ways. I mean, definitely in entertainment, that's one thing that happens is people sees other people's idea and they steal their ideas and tries to improve on it and their ideas and their ways and moves it forward. And I do feel privileged with ETalk. I think ETalk definitely is a little different than the other networks out there on what we provide and the people on there, of course. And we're always looking for new shows and new input because ETalk has grown into other things. We have blog section on there, but it's not being used enough. I mean, I unfortunately don't have time to write blogs and stuff like that with everything I got going on. I really would like to, but that's not my strong point is writing. So I don't get to that. So, I mean, that's there for other people to write and put in there if they have time or, if I could find the right person to do that for ETalk, that would be wonderful because I want to create ETalk as just a place for mass information to where there's a place where people can go. And truly, I mean, I feel like I kind of limited myself in a way now with the name ETalk, and it's, you see the alien and all of that, but in ways that ETalk started out, as I think we talked about before, is the, ET. That's where the E-talk came from. It was E.T. talk. But I also look at it as like that E can stand for everything talk, whatever. Because, I think understanding what we're trying to understand in life, we're trying to understand things that aren't really studied in a lot, or I mean, you know what I'm saying. We're studying the unknown, and so studying the unknown, you want a plethora of information on all different viewpoints and different things. Like a matter of fact, my guest on my show earlier this morning, Ryan Burns, we're talking about giants and stuff, and I'm asking Dave Rosenfeld and Ryan Burns, why would they be hiding giants from us? And one of Ryan's responses was really amazing and something I never thought about. But with the giants, they had 6 digits on their fingers. We have 5 digits. And so they have a whole different mathematic system because those digits go up to 12, ours only go up to 10. And just what he was talking about was so amazing and just a whole different point of view than anything I would have thought of and stuff. And so, again, I guess making a long story out of this, but yeah, I just think variety is awesome. So, yeah, you're more than welcome to do whatever you want here.
No, actually, I guess, yeah, we have 2 hours, so you don't have to worry about time. But all kidding aside, you're talking about the logo. I actually like the logo having the alien with the little UFO by it because to me, it signifies we're not just talking about earthbound information, that we're open to the esoteric outside of the planet as well. And so I find it more of a welcoming logo than restrictive, in my opinion. But, I'm just a show host.
Well, no, thank you. That's it. Everybody's going to look at it in their own way, and depending on their belief system, is going to have a certain view of it just because of the alien and stuff like that. But I try to make them friendly and stuff. He's talking on the mic, got a cigarette or something in his hand, and got the UFO there. So. I love it. I think my friend Josh Carpenter, DJ Blue, I think he did a great job creating it. I got a friend that works for DreamWorks, and he says he's going to put it into a 3D animation. I'm like, oh, that would be awesome. So see if he finds time to do that for me. But no, I like it, and I like everything that ETalk has really turned into. This year has been kind of a challenge for me, so it hasn't moved forward the way I would have liked to this year. But it's still moving forward, and we're doing good. And I think next year is going to be 10 times better than what how we move forward this year. So I'm really looking forward to it. I actually have some ideas of some change, and so that way it can help me out because this year I've been trying to run this whole thing myself, and that's where it's just kind of faltered a little bit because I've been busy in my mundane life trying to get things taken care of, and trying to run this has been kind of a struggle this year. So I'm going to hopefully bring on a couple partners and move this forward in a different way to help free me up with some time, and also bring in some more manpower. So once that's finalized and we discuss things through a little bit more, then I will let more people know about exactly what's going on. But I definitely want ETalk to move forward in the right way, and I don't want us to just be, middle of the road type of network. I want us to always strive for something new and something better.
Right. And, it's funny that you point out like the ET having the cigarette in his hand. It kind of, when you said that, I flashed to the movie Paul. It was like, oh, that is so Paul-esque.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a great movie. I love Paul. We actually had it posted on our network for a while. I don't know if it was actually legal, but we had it posted there for a while in the social media section, just because it's such a great movie, and it was so fitting for what we do here. But like we were trying to say is. I'm open to all shows. I mean, we definitely have spiritual shows here. We have paranormal shows. We have some shows that ran more on the conspiracy side. We had astrology shows. And so I'm looking for a little bit of everything because I want that variety for our listening audience. It's just, it's so great to have, a variety of talk radio.
Right. And the network alone, it's like you have this little chat area where we all actually chat, and, admittedly sometimes get busy and don't always get into the chat room, but it is really cool that you have it set up. And the other bonus to the ETalk network that a lot of people may not be aware of is I get away with being able to call my shows vodcast and podcast. They're hybrid shows because someone tried to correct me and say, well, you're video show, so you have vodcast, not a podcast. And I said, hold on. Podcasts are on radio, right? And he said, yeah. I said, ETalk.tv, we air on the radio live during our shows. And he looked at me and goes, okay, you're a hybrid show.
Well, I like that. I've never looked at it that way. I've always wondered what we consider ourselves, because I was more video than podcast myself. But thanks to Dave Cruz out there, him and also Gigi at Shift Happens, they kept chirping in my ear about the radio, and so finally we got a chance to look into it, and it was like, let's make the move, and we did that a little over a year ago. Matter of fact, that's why we started the first ETalk Haunted Marathon. It was because we just got the radio station going. It was like, hey, dude, let's do a quick marathon and let's have some fun. And, Halloween's coming up, and everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. And, it was a great success, I think, especially for how quickly we got out of the gate and started it. And so that's why to be doing the second anniversary one here now, I'm just so honored and proud. And, I want to give huge shout out to, Dave Cruz for one, for, he's been there behind me, helping me out in so many different ways. And so, Dave, man, I love you, brother. Thank you for being there. And, definitely Dave's show's coming up tomorrow, Beyond the Strange, and he'll be there with Russ Bailey, his co-host. I'm sorry, Dave, but I forget who your guest is right now offhand. Maybe you can throw that in the chat if you're out there. But he'll be on, and they're absolutely amazing. But Dave's been a big supporter and a big help of mine throughout this whole year. And then also DJ Blue, Josh Carpenter, man. I mean, and Dr. Carpenter now, because he just got his doctorate and all of that. So congratulations, Josh. But he's been a huge help too, man. And I really couldn't have kept it up, to where it's at today without them. They helped in a huge way, and so many others out there have helped throughout the way. And I couldn't be more honored. I mean, even you, Michael. I mean, everybody that is on. trust me enough to put their show on here and stuff like that. I feel honored, and we're happy to take it where it's at. And like I said, we plan on moving it forward. This year's been a little bit slower of a growth than I wanted and then what I was expecting, but it's going great, man. And yeah, we support hybrid shows here because that's what it started out at, because that's where the TV is it's more video, and we're going to get more TV style shows as well on the network as well too. I mean, that's something I want to do. I got a passion for, documentaries and film and stuff like that, because I spent some time doing that in my life, and so I want to get back into filming a lot more, especially the excursions we go out and do, because I'm privileged to go and do excursions with some of the best researchers around, and so I want to document that and create it into shows. And I got a couple other friends out there doing some of the similar things, and so I want to showcase their shows and like I said, keep this growing. So hopefully I'm not talking in circles here.
No, not at all. And it also gives me the opportunity of sharing with you, to reiterate about the radio, is when I have a lot of guests and I mention we're going to be live on a web-based radio and on YouTube and Facebook, every one of them has all said, "Oh wow, we're going to be on the radio." It's like a little air of excitement of, "Wow, I'm going to be on a radio." So all the guests love that feature.
Yeah, I don't know what it was about the radio, but truthfully, I felt the same way the very first time I ever did a show, which is, God, I can't believe it's been years now. And I most people don't know this about me, but I used to be super, super, super shy growing up, and so to do stuff that I do today, I just like doesn't seem like it's even feasible, and that it's even the same me. Well, it's not the same me because I've grown so much, but uh the first time I did a show with my buddy Josh Carpenter, DJ Blue, and our great friend Christine Essex, we did the Luminosity Wellness Center. It was a wellness center we had in Las Vegas, and it was a great, fun show that we did. And it was on the radio, but I felt the same way. It was just like, yeah, I'm on the radio. I'm on the radio, and it was so much fun. I did theater and acting for years and years. And so to me, I like being live. I loved, if I got a choice of acting and being able to do it for a living, I'd rather choose stage than on film, because it's just a whole different ball game when you're live. I mean, like this morning with everything going haywire, I definitely didn't like it, but it's just that energy, that passion, it's just anything could happen at any time, I don't think radio is as fun as, when things happen like that on stage, because, unique things happen on stage. But yeah, I like that live feeling. That's just a lot of fun.
And there is something euphoric about hearing yourself and not seeing yourself and going, "Wow, that's how people hear me." And there's something too about it that it's like, wow, it's so cool to be a voice that's just out there. And I have to say that I've kind of taken your philosophy, because I remember when we first were talking about doing the radio, I was concerned about, well, people aren't going to see what's on the show. And I remember what you told me, and I took it to heart. And I had an episode recently where a gentleman was showing, pieces of drawings or pieces of something that he's created or was showcasing. And my co-host starts explaining what they're looking at. And we said, "You don't need to explain that." And she goes, "But the people on the radio can't see it." And we said, "Right. The objective is they're going to get so interested in what we're talking about, they're going to go watch the video to see." And it was like, and the guest was like, "Yes, it's exactly right." And it's the power of the radio, is it draws people in, and then they'll come and watch the video.
No, and that's where there's a benefit to all of this is that can happen, and that's what I love about it too. I mean, you just got to realize you're on radio and you're doing, TV, video, however you want to look at it, and you just got to remember that so you can keep everything running smoothly. But you could use that to your advantage, and yeah, get hits on both of it, the radio and your own video, because you spark enough interest that they're like, man, I didn't get a chance to check out the actual video, but everybody else got to see the video of the ghost coming out of the wall or whatever it is, the spaceship in the sky. And so, it's really fun to be able to use both of those things to your advantage. And that's what of course, I always try to do with my show. I'm trying to improve my show all the time, even though I haven't really done it in a long time until, thank God, today. But it's a fun tool to be able to use.
It is, and the other blessing for all you podcast hosts out there, if you are looking for a network, is Jeff's network, ETalk TV. If you cannot make an episode because something comes up, it automatically airs a past episode. So people will still get your show. It's just not a current episode, but it's an automatic feature. So you don't have to be like in a family emergency calling them up and saying, oh, I can't make it. No, it's built into the system of it'll automatically do it, and he replays the audio on the radio at various times, so you're always going to get heard.
Michael, you're not supposed to share that part of it, man. We don't want them to think and feel like they can just cancel their show at any time. No.
Well, that's why I said in case of an emergency.
The great thing is, yes, they don't have to call me panicking, go, no, I'm not going to be on there. It's like, I don't care. A show will show up, so I'm good with that. I try to keep it pressure free because you know what? I don't like stress in my life. I like life to just go by relaxing. I like to be relaxed the whole time. And so I try to make everything pressure free so we can relax and enjoy what we're doing. And that's what we should be doing here is enjoying it. It shouldn't feel like it's a job or anything. And, I really feel lucky in my senses. I don't feel like that at times. I mean, the only time I get overwhelmed now is when things happen right before the show, and then usually I just got to calm down after I get going. But yeah, I just want this to be fun and exciting, and when it's fun for us, then it's usually fun for our guests as well too.
Right, and I just saw Dave, Dave commented because you asked about the guest. I just happened to look down at my phone and see the glare. I couldn't see it at the time, but I see it now. He goes, paranormal researcher, author Nicole Strickland is who his guest is tomorrow.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave, for giving us that information because I totally forgot at that time. But yeah, no, check that show out. Dave is amazing. Been on the show a couple times and love Dave. Dave is an awesome guy, and so is Russ. So is Russ. Almost forgot his name. They're both just amazing, and they do such a great job. They're great they co-host perfectly together, and so really enjoy their show and looking forward to it. And again, Dave and Russ both are just wonderful people, so check their show out. And then hey, I don't know if you saw that, Michael, but I just sent you Brett Luter's email link if you want to bring him in and bring him on the show as well too. Brett's amazing. He's an author, researcher. Just finished up his show with Russ Parker there, The Exorcist. They just finished up on the marathon. Amazing person. Bigfoot researcher.
Yeah, I don't see it, but if you want to send it, it hasn't come through yet, but if you want to share with him your link, you're welcome to.
I guess I can do that as well too, huh? I thought I sent it over. Yeah, I mean, we're having fun here too. We can keep rocking and rolling. I don't mind. I just.
Oh, wait, here, it just popped in. All right. So while I'm doing that, there is one thing of your bio that has caught my interest because it's something I don't think people have ever heard of in full truth, and that is you've been to not just Area 51, but Area 54. And I gotta say, when you said Area 54, I was like, what is Area 54?
Yeah, most people don't talk about Area 54, and it isn't really like that's the thing. I mean, basically what it is because if you have studied out there at the test site out there in Nevada, out in the Mojave Desert, where Area 51 is, the whole test site area, the reason it got Area 51, I mean, there might be other reasons why they picked that actual number for that, who knows, but it's sectioned off into, like big parcel sections and stuff. And so the bombing gunnery range at the Nevada test site is Area 54 in their grid map. And so that's why I call it Area 54, because that's what we're researching. And what we're researching is the Charles White story. I just said that wrong, didn't I? I just said the guy's name not wrong now. It's the Tall Whites. It isn't Charles White. I can't think of his name now. Man, I've never had his name slip my mind. It's Charles something. All right. Dave, if you're in the chat room out there, let me know who it is. But God, I can't believe I can't remember his name now. But anyhow, he worked for the test site back in the 60s. And in the 60s, he worked at a weather station. And he claims that he had alien beings come in and interact with him. And these beings were called the Tall Whites. And so I was fascinated with this story because I was from Las Vegas. And once I met Brad Olson and got into with all these people and everything and started learning this, and then I started studying more things. And so I'm like, hey, let me see what's going on around Las Vegas. Charles Hall is who I'm thinking about. And so I ran across a story with Charles Hall and him working at the Nevada test site and interacting with the Tall Whites. And so he's written 3 or 5 books about the Tall Whites. It's pretty interesting. I don't know truly how I feel either way about this story, whether I fully believe him or I disbelieve it. But since it's out in the Las Vegas area, and we definitely know that there's definitely crafts in that area, especially coming from Area 54. And supposedly the Tall Whites are also what Eisenhower signed a treaty with back in, what was it, 54, I think it is. I'm not 100% sure on that date. But so Eisenhower signed a treaty with the Tall Whites. And so the Tall Whites, come up in our history quite often. So I figured, let's go research that. And so right after I met Brad Olson, I organized a trip out into the Mojave Desert, way deep into the middle of nowhere, to research this base. And what's funny is when I found out about it, I started to talk to my brother because I'm like, hey, Andy, check this out. I'm like, look where this base is at, dude. Can you imagine there's supposed to be a UFO base right there? And he's like, dude, I know that like the back of my hand. I'm like, you know what? He goes, I know that out there like the back of my hand. That's where I used to go fur buying. And my brother, he was addicted to off-roading when he was young. Well, he's always been addicted to off-roading, even now. But, he always went out fur buying. Him and his friends, they would go out there and go fur buying all the time. I mean, when he was in his 20s, he got a brand new Ranger, maybe 20s, 30s, something like that. And he almost rode it the first day because they went out there fur buying. But he knew that whole area. He knows all of the roads out there in that area. So it was like, hey, let's go check it out. And so he had a 4x, and so we went out there because where we go, you're not getting out there unless you have a 4x vehicle, and it has to be pretty, in good condition because you just ain't getting out there. It's not an easy place to get to. You're out in the middle of nowhere. If something happens, you could be SOL. It'd be a long walk back into town, and believe me, nobody goes out there. Out of the first trip we went out there, we were out there for 4 days. We didn't see anybody except for the military, because the military flies by and does all these different exercises. So we went out there to research the Tall White Alien Base, and what was funny is my brother took me, and I went out there with my brother and my sister-in-law, and we drove out there a week before we went out for our research trip, and we took a Saturday and drove out to the desert, drove around, and we came across this big, huge dry lake bed. And so there was like this little flat area that was kind of risen up, and it was there was some mountains on the east end of this little plateau thing where it kind of was like backing, and it was like, you know what, that looks like a perfect camping spot. And so when we go to check it out, of course, it was a perfect camping spot, I guess, because there was 2 fire pits right there. And so, but when we were sitting there, it was like, dude, this has to be a perfect, because if we're looking for a mothership to come in, because Charles Hall says that a mothership will come in and leave on the full moon and leaves, I believe, on the new moon, or vice versa, one of the two. I always forget which one it comes in, which one it leaves, but it does it on the full moon and the new moon from what he says. And so I'm like, dude, if a mothership comes into this mountainous valley, you'll see it coming over all the mountains and going into that area, into the Area 54, the gunning and bombing range. And so we picked the area, and just the only reason we picked it is because that dry lake bed was there, and so that gave us a big open view. We weren't stuck behind mountains and all of this. It gave us a huge open view of, pretty much the biggest view you're going to get of the valley. And so we picked it, went there the next weekend, and spent 4 days out there. Well, actually, we spent 4 days, so we were throughout most of the week, and then I think we came back on the weekend. It was a blast. And what happened is when I went and started to check everything on Google Maps, we ended up right next to where that UFO base is supposed to be. Whether it's there or not, I can't say for sure yet. We're going to make more expeditions out there. We have plans to do one here, hopefully in the next few months. Truthfully, I usually don't talk about it before I go to do this one, but we might go out there in a few months and do another expedition out there. I know we're going to do one sometime in the future. Whether we can get one off before it gets cold, I'm not sure. But me, I love it just because you're in the middle of nowhere, and it's fun to be able to observe and see what's going on. And truthfully, every time we've been out there, I've been out there 2 times now as far as for an expedition, and both times the military has not disappointed, and they've given us a different type of show every single time, and it's been fun. It's a lot of fun.
So I'm kind of curious, is 54 fenced off and guarded like 51, or did they learn from 51 and do less like visible deterrents to make people want to stay away?
Well, 54 isn't that well known. The Charles Hall story is known among us, our community and stuff, in the UFO community. But I don't know, have you ever heard of Charles Hall before?
I haven't until you mentioned him.
So his story isn't as well known as other people in the UFO community. So they don't have anything really to worry about, and most people, are more focused on Area 51. I know, I live out there and stuff, and so I know there's no way you're getting to Area 51. These people that are, I don't want to call them idiots, but they weren't too bright on saying, "Oh, it's 51." Dude, if you know anything about Area 51, you can storm in Area 51. First of all, if you get through the gate, you're going to get shot on sight. And believe me, the whack-a-nuts that operate the security out there, they'll be more than happy to shoot you. They have no problem with it. I mean, they might even shoot you before you get across the gate. They have no problem with it. They can get away with it. I mean, that's top security there. I mean, was it Eisenhower? One of the presidents tried to do the same thing and storm the gates, and he couldn't get through the gates. So really these stupid idiots think they're going to get through the gates by storming the gates. I mean, truthfully, what I wanted to do is go catch a spot on top of the hill and watch these people try to do it, because, it's not going to happen. And then first of all, if they get through the gates and they don't get shot, they got about another 30 miles of complete desolate desert to go through with no food, no water. I mean, whatever I fit in the backpack, you got a long ways to go before you ever get to Area 51. I mean, the military was not stupid. They knew what they were doing. There's a lot of reasons they picked that area. And so if you've ever been out in that and surveyed that area, you realize it's not easy pickings. You're not going to just get there. And they got plenty of cover to do whatever they want. And there's ships, anything can pop up in any different. I mean, they could fly and get to a different direction without nobody noticing. I mean, you gotta see the Nevada desert. It's amazing. I mean, when you drive from one side of the state to the other, it's just mountain after mountain after mountain after mountain, and so there's a lot of cover. And so they picked that area for a reason. And so, do they have fences? Yes, but they're natural fences. They're earth-made fences, and they're called huge mountains. And they got these huge mountain ranges that separate the public side from the test site, and that's the thing. So where we go down a road that's actually longer than 40 miles, but we go 40 miles deep into the desert, and basically that road goes alongside the mountainside. And so literally on one side of the mountain is public land. On the other side, well, it's BLM land. So, and then on the other side of that mountain is the Nevada test site, and where we're at is the gunning bombing range. And so, basically, if anything went terribly wrong and we were out there and we weren't going to survive, I'd go right for that mountain and start climbing that mountain, because I'm sure they would come and get us before we even got up halfway up the mountain, and try to arrest you and stuff, because, they got the same type of survey stuff that they have around Area 51 as far as the sensors and stuff like that. I mean, every time we're out there, they know we're there. And I think they make us part of their training activities and stuff like that, because like I said, they kind of put on a show for us, and it's pretty fun. We watch F-16s and all that fly through the canyons doing maneuvers. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Sounds like fun. And I also wonder if they look and scan who's there, like say, oh, Jeff Renel's here. Well, he doesn't do anything to like damage the land or anything. He's more of a leave no mark behind. So, let's just chill and do a slideshow. Whereas if you were like a known instigator or somebody who you could say is going to spray paint, say something on a mountain, they're probably going to be like, hey, you're coming with us. We're going to give you a much different show.
Well, I mean, since you say that, I think, yes, I do. I definitely think they know who you are out there. I mean, it's not like we didn't bring our cell phones, so they can just ping that and figure out who owns those cell phones right there. So I very much think that they figure out who's out in the desert, because not too many people, like I said, make it out that far out to where we're at. People do. I mean, I've seen an old couple in the truck drive by once when I was out there before, but that was only once out of all the times I've been out there. And I've spent almost a full week out there now with all the different times I've been there. And so, so you just don't make it out there. So I'm sure they know who you are. And not the very first time, because that was with my brother and my sister-in-law, we probably were fine. They were probably just nobodies. But when I went out there the second time on our first excursion, I'm there with Brad Olson. And then a few other people that are around the community. But I think that could probably be a red flag when you bring, one of the top, esoteric UFO researchers in the world with you out into the middle of the desert out by, I would say 15, 20 miles away from the test site, from the Area 51, from where we were located. But, they're close enough out in the middle of the nowhere. And why are you there right next to the test site? So I have a feeling they figured out who all of us were when we were out there, but fun. I mean, we literally had a spy plane fly over us every single day around 3, 4 o'clock at night. Well, in the afternoon, and it would fly over us. You could hear it because you're out in the middle of nowhere, so you could hear things coming for miles and miles. You just had to figure out where it was coming from because that valley, the stuff could echo through, and you think it's somewhere else and stuff. But yeah, you would see it way up there, and we'd take our binoculars and figure it out. It looked like it was a spy plane, but every day about the same time. I mean, whether they're there just for us or whether they're doing, training and just happen to use us and fly by us every single time, who knows?
So, how did you discover, besides Charles Hall, story, what brought your attention and awareness to Area 51 and Area 54 to say, wow, this is in my backyard. I want to go check this out?
I mean, I've always known about Area 51. I try to remember back before the Bob Lazar story on whether, I mean, I'm pretty, I can't tell you for sure, but I'm pretty sure that I think as a community, we kind of early knew and expected that there was UFOs there when Bob Lazar came out with his story. But, truthfully, I can't say for 100%, but I want to say we did, as a community, we did know something was going on there. I think there was rumors out there. But what's funny is, as far as Bob Lazar goes, I mean, I actually had met him and not like we're buddies or anything like that, but one of my best friends, his mom actually, she was one of the top psychiatrists in Las Vegas. She was an amazing person, and she was very big in Las Vegas as far as what she did. And I'd be over at his house, and all of a sudden she'd be going, "Oh, Bob Lazar's coming over." And at the time we didn't know who he was, as far as him working at the test site and all of that stuff, or at Area 54 S4. But this guy would come over and he would have this badass Corvette with this roll cage, but every time he came in, mom asked her to get out of the house. And so she said they were just friends, but now after everything and looking back, I wonder if she was actually his psychiatrist, because that's more what it seemed like, because we had to get out of the house for a good hour or so while he was there. And it always seemed like he was there for an hour. But truthfully, me and my friend were 18 years old. So we went outside. We were happy to go out. We were 17, 18, somewhere around there. And so we were happy to go outside and check out his Corvette, because his Corvette was awesome. His black Corvette. He had a roll cage in there. He had this system that he created that he could actually type in what speed limit he wanted to see. The cop wanted, he type in what he wanted the radar to read out that the cop was using to read him and stuff. And so if he was doing 100 miles an hour, he could type in 55. And so the radar the cop was holding would say 55 miles an hour. And so, I mean, the guy was, he was just a cool, unique person. I didn't know who he was as far as, Area 51 and all of that. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say 5 months later or so, after seeing him a couple of times, that's when everything came out with Area 51 and S4, and then I, of course, never saw him again after that over at his house. But yeah, I mean, that was like, hey, that's that guy. And so, so Area 51 has always basically been a part of my life, and I've always been a bit on that. But I've always been, tried to follow alien stuff, but I was more into spiritual stuff, and it's just a regular mundane life. So I followed stuff when I could, but not like I was knee deep into it my whole life. That's for sure.
Right. So I'm kind of curious with your personal what time you spend with him and being around him. What do you feel like when people are saying, oh, he's misinformation, or oh, he's not who he says he is, he wasn't there, making it all up? What's your take on that? Do you feel like he's legit, or maybe somewhat legit, or yeah, everyone's right, totally off
Um,
the rails.
truthfully, just the time I got to actually see him and meet him, not enough time to really get to know the person. I mean, seriously, it was basically he was coming in the door, we were going out the door. But the very first time we were introduced to him, of course, but and then it was just basically like a hi, because again, I didn't really know who he was. I mean, he wasn't the Bob Lazar that I know about today. Otherwise, I probably would have been like, grabbing hold of his pant leg, going, "Hey, dude, hey," because again, I wasn't following the stuff then, but I was very interested in anything like that. So I would have been, trying to get as much info as I could have just to see and hear something about the unknown is something that most people don't talk about, because I was all about that my whole life for sure. Talk about the things that most people won't. But I'll say this: once it came out, once I started like watching some of the, especially on YouTube. So, I mean, I saw all the stuff on the news. That was always big because it was in Vegas. Always, George Knapp was big in Vegas before he broke that news story. I believe he was doing some other stuff with UFOs too, right prior to that, but not much. It might have been. I think he had done some stuff on Skinwalker Ranch and the Sherman Ranch before Bob Lazar's story, and maybe that's why Bob contacted him. I forget how that connection worked, or maybe that's through John Lear. But once I started watching his YouTube videos when I got a little bit older, and the ones that were released on YouTube about Bob Lazar, and George Knapp is the one that recorded them right after all of the stuff went down. They quickly made a videotape and recorded everything with Bob Lazar, and just in case something happened, because they honestly were going after his life, and I'm not surprised at all, because the one thing you did hear all the time about with the Nevada test site was all the craziness that happened out there and stuff. I mean, there was, talk about a cow that had like a glass stomach type of deal where you could see all the organs going. I mean, just weird stuff that we would hear weird stories all the time of things going on in that area and stuff. So, I wouldn't be surprised that they would be going after Bob. But when I started to watch, me personally watch him on YouTube and start to see some of the older videos, me personally, I've always felt that he was telling the truth, just because his energy, his emotions, the way he talks on the videos. I never had a hard time believing him one bit. And I think nowadays, with everything that has come out, even, talk about Element 115 now existing and stuff. So I think Bob Lazar has been nothing but vindicated 100%, in his journey. So, I'm proud he came out. I know it probably wasn't the best thing in his life, but I'm happy he did, because it definitely helped a lot of us, and definitely, I think, sparked a bigger interest in the UFO community at that time, and really made that community grow. And I think that's where we got a lot of our great researchers and the people that, even we look up to today, so I think it was a great thing.
So you mentioned Skinwalker Ranch and Sherman Ranch, and there's another ranch that's recently come into public eye, and so I'm kind of curious your take on that, and that's the Blind Frog Ranch, because they just recently got a show about it. So I don't know if you've watched the show, but with your experiences, do you feel like the show's doing it justice if you've seen it, or are they making it more sensationalized to get people to watch it? And it's like, yeah, you guys are really doing a real, truly disservice to what's going on at the ranch.
Have we talked about this before?
We haven't.
I mean, me and you personally, because I have huge opinions about this. I do know about Blind Frog Ranch. I've actually spent the night there before. I'm honored to have been invited. I've actually been invited a couple other times, but I haven't had the opportunity to be able to break free and actually go. I was actually invited just a couple months ago to go to Blind Frog Ranch, but I couldn't get away. But I do know Dwayne Ollinger. pretty good. I mean, I see Dwayne all the time at conferences, and Dwayne has invited me up to Blind Frog Ranch as well. I really, really like Dwayne. I like his son Chad. They're all great people. I've met them all, and really great people. And again, I love Dwayne. Love Dwayne. I think Dwayne is such a great person. But when we want to talk, if we want to talk about the series, yes, I think it's doing Blind Frog Ranch a huge injustice. I think it's all discovery. I mean, who knows? It could be Dwayne too. I hear certain stories about Dwayne. I got my feelings for him because I just think he's just this good old good old country boy. He's just got this great energy. So, I mean, I could be fooled, but I'm usually not fooled by people because I can tap into energy pretty good. But I don't like this. If the series was about gold hunting, it would be a great series. If they left all the paranormal stuff out of there, it would be a great series. And it was an entertaining series. It was an entertaining series, but I think it's a bunch of bullshit. I mean, the stuff that they've displayed and then they never follow through on. I just think it's a joke, man. I was going to tell Dwayne one of the times that, but he was with a bunch of people and I didn't feel right saying it in front of Dwayne, but I don't think it's doing him any justice because Dwayne has a certain message that he's getting out from his experience with Blind Frog Ranch and what he's experienced with other beings and what's his name now? Colonel Jeremiah. I can't think of his name right now, but this is a guy that's supposedly part of the Galactic Federation that had been in contact with Dwayne and had supposedly helped his daughter heal from some crazy disease. And, they healed her at the last minute and saved her life. And Dwayne has this amazing story to tell. And he wants to get his story out there, but I think with what Discovery is doing with this series is just destroying his reputation because, I mean, anybody that has a clue can sit there and go, they're just embellishing stuff, especially like I said, I've got a chance to get to know Dwayne. I want to say, pretty good. I mean, not like I hang out with him, but I see him quite a bit at conferences. I've probably seen him at least 8 conferences in the last few years. And, we sit down and talk and stuff like that, I've actually been up to his old outpost that he has in Vernal, Utah and met up with him there and talked with him there a few times. That's a matter of fact why I first met him. So if you know Dwayne, I mean, what I get from him is he's a good old country boy. He's not scared of anything. But some of the things that they show in that series, I mean, not that they show him scared, but I don't know. I think it was the end of season 2 or maybe the end of season 1, but I'm pretty sure it was 2, where they have this like standoff with these black cars in the background in this parking lot. And that's on supposedly his ranch. And they're having a standoff, and Dwayne doesn't go right up to this window and say, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you on my ranch?" and all this stuff. I mean, I think all this stuff's embellished. The other one that really gets me too is the first season. I don't know if it was at the very beginning or towards the end of the season, but they have this supposedly Skinwalker transforming in the cameras. And it's like they show it at the very end of the episode and they all start rushing over to Chad, his son's encampment, because that's the cameras that captured it. And they end it there. Well, the next episode, nothing. Every episode since then, nothing. What are you telling me? You catch a person turning into a skinwalker on film, and you run to your family's trailer to find out to see the ranch, and that's the end of the episode when you never something funny's going on there, to me. Because if you see somebody changing into a skinwalker, you got some good things there. Something everybody wants to see. That would be huge, but right. I think it's all a bunch. I think Discovery is blowing it out of their water, and I think it's ruining everything. I find it so sad because I talked to other researchers, James Keenan, And he says that there's some really special stuff on that land that is like nothing else in the Uintah Basin. And that's saying something, because the Uintah Basin is just absolutely crazy. If you heard my show earlier today with Ryan Burns and Dave Rosenfeld, you heard what they're talking about it. I mean, Utah is an amazing spot, but the Uintah Basin is just crazy. And Blind Frog Ranch is a part of the Uintah Basin. So, I mean, I hate talking bad about anything, but yeah, that whole scenario bugs me a lot, because again, I really like Dwayne. Dwayne's been nothing but great to me. And I just think he's a great guy. I mean, it's just, but it's an interesting thing. There's more going on there than what most people know, especially what the show shows. There's, it's a unique situation. So I'm just patiently waiting in the backdrop to see what happens. I do hope I get to go back up there some more, because the one night I was there was spectacular. I mean, the UFOs were popping off everywhere. It was amazing. I was there with my buddy Eric, the Awakening Man, and Arcturus Raw, and then there was two other ladies with us. I can't remember their name right now. I think Eric and them had met them at the conference and invited them with us. But we just had an amazing time. And yeah, the sky was popping off, but that's the Uintah Basin. I can't say the sky popping off with things in the sky was just because we were at Blind Frog Ranch. We were in the Uintah Basin. That's just what happens in the Uintah Basin, man. It's a hot spot for UFOs. So it's really unique. But I personally want to go back to Blind Frog Ranch. I want to be able to have the time to walk around, experience the land, feel the land, see if the land talks to me, what's going on, because that whole Uintah Basin area is just special, man. I'm going to start looking for land out there, hopefully here soon, but it's just special. It's just a unique place.
It sounds like it, and I'm curious your opinion of all the people who are saying like a lot of the ranches in that basin have underground bases or underground buildings connected by tunnels to other things. What's your take on that?
Well, I'm not sure if the ranches themselves do, but about underground buildings and maybe bases there. I feel strongly that there is. I mean, there's some very interesting stories that I've heard from other people, and images I've actually seen of thermal imaging from satellite systems on like the Skinwalker Ranch, the Sherman Ranch. And it shows some type of structure underneath there. And so whether the Shermans knew that there was something under there at the time, I'm not sure. Whether Bigelow knew, whether Fugel knows. I tend to believe more that those two know what's underneath there, and that's probably why they own it. So it's very interesting. But now with me, I mean, and I was even talking about this morning too with my guest again. I talk about how I had this preconceived idea of what Skinwalker Ranch was when I first started to learn about it, and when I first went there. But now my understanding and my thoughts are of Skinwalker Ranch, and that whole area that went to Uintah Basin. My buddy Ryan Burns, who I had on this morning, he owns Space Wolf Research, right next door to Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, right next door. They share a stream. And so I've spent a lot of time out there. And so, talking to other researchers, spending time out there and stuff, my ideas and thoughts of what that area is and what's there is a lot different. And I don't know if it's as fluffy as I thought it was before. It's like, I think there's a lot more negative things going on there than maybe there should be. I'm not sure. There's things there that just, I makes you wonder what all is going on there, is more or less what I should say, because there is definitely something unique about that spot. There's a reason why everybody is, researching that area, and there's a lot of research going on. And like we talked about again this morning, is like, you know, Ryan was expressing when Bigelow and them first got there, they're researching UFOs. But now it's no longer UFOs. There's, you know, Bigelow is into consciousness now. He has that whole organization on studying consciousness. So they've transformed it. You know, their thoughts, their ideas have grown more the more they have studied this phenomenon, because it is that. It's, you know, they go to do one type of experiment and it reacts, and then they go and do another experiment to kind of experiment with that reaction, and it reacts different than it did the time before. And so they experiment again and it reacts different. And so it's never the same thing over and over. And it's just weird. And, you know, things happen out there that you can't explain. Like, I mean, every time I go out there with all the intention in the world to do all kinds of filming the whole time I'm there, dude, the weather's so horrible and windy, and I can't do nothing. I mean, my tent is basically almost vertical with the ground, flapping me in the face, or I go hide in my car. You know, it's crazy. And you know, I got a really expensive thermal imaging camera that records and everything like that, so I could take it out there and take it to do different type of research trips, but, you know, mainly out there. And the very first day I have it out there, it goes haywire, and now I got to send it back in to get it fixed because it doesn't record or anything anymore. And it's, you know, and is that part of the Skinwalker area, or was that just, you know, malfunction in my camera? What, you know, you don't know. You know, it's really interesting, and, you know, it's a unique place, and it's a lot of fun. I can tell you one thing though, with the ranches out there that I've noticed, they all have cameras. And all of those cameras are not pointing at their driveway, their front doors. They're pointing up in the sky. So that should tell you something.
I imagine they would. And I'm kind of curious because, you know, you mentioned Bigelow and Fugel. You hear in the episodes of The Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, like, Bigelow never turned over any of their research to the new ownership. And I can't help wonder, is that by design that, you know, maybe Fugel didn't want that research? Or is it that Bigelow just was like, nope, I'm not handing this over, even though it should be declared under the land and the ownership packet of what's going on here? So I'm curious what your feeling is, you know, do you think the ownership decided, hey, I don't want to know what you know, so my information and research is uncontaminated? Or did they really say, we're just not giving it to you?
I'm pretty sure they just said they're not going to give it to them, but I don't know. I have certain ideas and thoughts about that. I'm not sure if I want to express them right now on this. I mean, I think I'm a little more safe than most people to be able to express it because I don't have any ties with anybody, but I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, is Bigelow and Fugel connected in some way there? You know, why did Bigelow give up the ranch? You know, I know certain stories of why they say he gave up the ranch, but why did he give up the ranch? So I'm not sure, but we do know that that Bigelow is part of the space program, and he's a contractor for the space program. So whatever knowledge they have, I'm sure, is worth a lot of money. So why share the knowledge when it's worth a lot of money? And so I'm sure that might have a lot to do with it. Plus, you know, who knows what they know, and you know that what they know might create more power than wealth could create. So who knows?
Right.
I definitely know that they are. The one thing that when Fugel first took over, of course, I went in with a little bit more naive eyes, because I didn't even realize that this was going on. I was actually in a conference out in Laughlin, Nevada, out there with, of course, Brad Olson and a bunch of other people. I think we went to go see John Lear speak or something like that. And lo and behold, they were there, and they came out, and all Dragon and Tom, all those guys came out, and they were the main focus of the conference at the very end. This was for, God, I can't remember the name of the conference now, but it was a really big UFO run, lasted all week long. They were the main thing at the end. And so when they came out and started talking, I mean, I was shocked. I was like, right on, man. We got someone that's going to finally, start sharing information with us. And they have shared information with us.
Right.
And the show shares some good information with us, but are they sharing all the information? I don't think so. I think there's more information they're discovering and they're not sharing. Excuse me. I mean, I've been lucky. I've caught some weird things on cameras out there. Once was just pure accident that I caught this. And it was pure accident that I even found it on my film, because I filmed it with a GoPro just up in the sky. I went to sleep and I had some GoPros running on a tripod and happened to capture some stuff while I was sleeping. And when I went to go review the footage, I mean, you got hours and hours of footage of just space and dead space. But I got lucky, and when I was rewinding, I happened to see some flash in the sky, and so I looked back on it, and I had captured some footage. And then, lo and behold, when I noticed that, I also noticed that there was a triangle-shaped craft in the footage as well. And then, so when I started looking at the footage, that triangle-shaped craft was there the whole freaking time, and it was there before I turned on the camera. How long it was there before I turned on the camera, I don't know, but kind of expect it was probably on out there the whole time we were out there watching. And this was again with Eric, the Awakening Man, and Arturus Raw. This was actually the night after we were at Blind Frog Ranch. We were over at Ryan's property when I filmed this, and it was, my cameras were pointing over the top of the Skinwalker Mesa, and so I captured some weird stuff in the sky. So there's weird stuff going on there, and they're not telling us everything. And why, I don't know. Is it because they can't? Is it because they don't want to? I'm not sure. Probably a little bit of all. But we're not getting the full story yet. I mean, it's nice that Fugal has it, I guess, but we're not getting all the information. But at least, it's getting more spotlight on trying to figure out the unknown. And the more we can get out there, the better. I mean, even if it's little tidbits of information, hopefully we can learn a lot from that in a lot of different ways.
Right. And talking about the show too and what they're revealing, there was one episode, well, actually I think it turned into 2 episodes the way they were talking about it, but it was a moment where I had a moment of going, that just doesn't seem possible. And that was when they were mining and doing the drilling horizontally, and they hit the structure that they couldn't go past, but they found the metal fragments. And, you're thinking, okay, this is extraterrestrial, not of this earth. And then they come back and go, oh, it's space shuttle material. And my mind is like, why would alien tech be coated in space shuttle material? That doesn't make sense. Or the fact that it was the way it was fused is like space shuttle material, and it's like, that doesn't make sense because it's underground. And then I was like, I'm wondering if, then my mind goes, well, we did have that space shuttle that exploded. Could it be that, piece of debris got lodged in the ground, buried, and they just happened to hit it, and they're like, hey, hey, we got space shuttle debris. Why is that here? And nobody thinks about, well, there was an explosion in space. The debris coming down would probably go through the ground a certain depth from velocity. I'm just curious your take on that, if you feel that's possible, or you feel like that was just something to throw you off what's really under there.
I mean, I remember an episode when they were drilling. I don't know if it's the same one or not. I didn't hear about them saying it was a spaceship or the space shuttle debris, but I don't know. I mean,
No,
where
they
did the
didn't
space
say
shuttle go
space
up at?
shuttle debris.
Where did the piece of space shuttle land? I mean, it didn't land over here, did it? Didn't it land all back in the ocean? I mean, I was only a kid watching it in school when it happened because I remember watching it happen live, the explosion. But that was over the ocean. That was out in Florida where they shot that thing off, if I remember correctly.
Well,
So I
that
don't
was
see any
Challenger.
planes flying
I'm
over there.
thinking
Huh?
Columbia. I'm thinking the Columbia. When it came in, it
Oh, the
was
one that was
over.
coming back into
Right.
orbit and blew up, huh? I forgot all about that one. I guess, yeah. I mean, because yeah, I guess that one was kind of in that flight path, maybe, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That I couldn't answer. But your second part of that is it a diversion? That very well could be because again, I believe there is something under that ground. Just by what I talked to other researchers, again, the thermal imaging images I've seen, um, I do believe there's some kind of structure under that ground, and there are rumors that it could be, an old craft. It could be an actual alien base. So, did they reinforce their alien base with steel or something, or just really hard type of granite or rock or something? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know that much about it. I just know the images I've seen and just that there are a couple of researchers I've talked to that I respect a lot that go to the place where they do feel that there could be a base under there.
Yeah. I
One
just want to
strong.
make clear that the material was fused a specific way on one side, and so they said the scientist who did the test said the only place we've seen this is on the coating of the space shuttle. They didn't say it was space shuttle debris. That's
Yeah.
just so that's where I put it together.
Okay. Remember that episode now. Yes, 100%. I remember that. But if you're creating a base underground, maybe that's the perfect thing for you to protect the base, shield it from any type of weather coming through. I mean, who knows? I don't know what their thinking would be, but it might make a good way to the composition to actually protect your walls and stuff underground like that. Who knows? But I do know I've been underground. My parents have shares in a gold mine, and when I was a young kid, we used to go through the mountain and stuff because it was all in the mountain. Certain caves that the miners themselves created, and some that was just natural. And I mean, you go into some of these caverns, and dude, so freaking huge with boulders, so freaking huge. I'm just in awe. I mean, one of the places we had to climb down a ladder, 80 feet, a chain ladder, 80 feet straight down a hole from the top of the mountain, 80 feet down into the ground, down to land inside the mountain. And I mean, it's spectacular. And so I know for a fact that there are caverns and natural caverns under this ground, and I'm sure there's a lot more bigger than what I've ever seen, that there easily could be cities underground and stuff like that. So, bases underground, I don't think that's a problem at all. And again, I wasn't prepared for it, but I could send you some of the images I got from one of the conferences with Terry Carter and some of the stuff that he shared with me. And it's amazing. Well, he shared it with the
Sure.
whole conference, so it's not like he shared it with me personally. But I'd have to find it, so I'll send it to you at a different point if that's okay.
That's fine. And you brought up an interesting point that I don't know if this is anything that you've looked into or not, but seeing that you went in like and found these large caverns that were natural, what is your take on the talk of an inner earth where there are cities and civilizations living in caverns in the mountains and under the ground?
So my thoughts on that? I mean, I strongly believe that there's cities underground. You know, I have no problem believing that we have different beings living underground, uh, and have been there for probably thousands of years. We probably have different races in the oceans living deep in the ocean and maybe deep under the ocean bed as well too. You know, the technology that they have, the technology we have. I mean, we know for a fact that there's tunnels and stuff underground going to many different places under these mountains. And so some of the technology we have just to do that is absolutely amazing. And then really quick, I'll just tell you this quickly, because we mentioned Area 54. I mean, it might be nothing, but when I was out there with Eric, we came back from venturing off out into the desert and stuff and just trying to, you know, learn and research more stuff out in that area. But when we got back to camp and started setting up our camp for that night, we're deep into the desert, but right next to, you know, the test site and all that, all of a sudden, you know, he has the music going, and I could feel it in the ground, but you could hear it too. It was like, but you could feel it moving in the ground, like they were jackhammering or something, like with some massive thing or something. I mean, it was weird, but it felt like something going on under the ground. And, you know, quickly I'm yelling at him, dude, turn down the music. Dude, you feel that, dude? And we're both, you know, it happened for a couple of minutes. And it was really interesting. I mean, something definitely was going on in the ground. We both, you know, come to the conclusion where we feel, you know, we both felt, you know, by what we felt on the ground, what we heard, that they were probably doing some digging under there. I also heard a semi. And again, we're out in the middle of freaking nowhere. I hear a semi clean as day doing the engine braking where it's, you know, slowing down, like coming down a hill. And so is that on the other side of the mountain from us, outside in the bombing range? Very well could be, because there's activity there from the test site. So it very well could have been a diesel there. I don't know. But it also could have been one underground, maybe, you know, hauling things away. I don't know. Who knows? But it's just weird when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're hearing that. So I do believe, you know, definitely we have tunnels everywhere. I believe they use nuclear technology for a lot of that stuff to be able to remove the land. So, but I do, yeah, I definitely believe those cities under there, and I believe there's beings all throughout the world living there. Did that answer your question?
It did, and it actually correlated something that I had seen a while ago and forgot about when you said, you know, hearing the diesel with the semi. Is there was, I think it was like 8 years ago, maybe, or 10 years ago. The big thing was there were trucks that would be driving on the highways, and then they would start to go down into this like tunnel area, and then they would show the drones and everything going along, and the trucks never reappeared. And it's like, there has to be a tunnel here, and the government's putting stuff underground, and you know, this has to be one of the entrances probably. And when you said, you know, hearing the diesel semi underground, it's like it triggered in my mind going, oh yeah, there was that period where a lot of people were showing semis disappearing, going into the ground.
Yeah. Hey, so really quick, I was able to find the images that Terry Carter put up at the conference. And so I put up 2 images so far. I have to go back up and get the other thermal imaging picture that Terry Carter shared. But in the official ETalk chat on the chat room, I just posted an old picture of our gold mine and a picture that somebody took, and you could see the size of the cavern there if you can get to the ETalk chat room. And then there's one of the thermal imaging of one of the pictures that was taken from a satellite. It was a thermal imaging set into a satellite, and they took the picture of the ground out by Skinwalker Ranch, which is a fascinating story that Terry Carter shared with us. And so I will find the other one. The file was too big to send all of them at one time. Yeah, I'd like to get Terry on my show one of these days, especially to have him tell that story because it's hilarious and fascinating, but very interesting.
It sounds that
Some of these
way, and
treasure hunters out here are amazing. What's that? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say it is sounding interesting, and it's kind of in my mind. I'm starting to look at like ley lines have certain effects, and there seems to be like triangles where the Bridgewater Triangle, the Bermuda Triangle, Alaska Triangle, where stuff happens within that area. And I'm starting, like you're saying, with the basin being what it is. If there's a triangle over the basin or something similar, that's why every ranch on the basin has similar, maybe not identical, but similar things. And it makes me then remember that Skinwalker Ranch show did a Beyond the Ranch where they started looking at other ranches in the area or around that had similar stuff. And it's like, yeah, it's interesting how everything seems to be similar experiences with equipment or similar, faults happening. And what's the common thread? They're all in the basin area. So, what is the basin?
Well, it's a certain area, of course. The Uintah Basin is a certain area from basically Duchesne, Utah, which is I'd say about an hour and a half away from Salt Lake City east. And you keep going east, and then it goes all the way out to about the Vernal area, and south and north. I can't really tell you exactly the distance there. I just know them because that's the drive, and I know it starts in Duchesne and ends basically out in the Vernal area. But it covers the Ashley Forest, Flaming Gorge, stuff like that, because the Ashley Forest seems to have Bigfoots in there, Bigfoot in there, or Bigfoots. Anyway, we believe we heard one a few years back when we were there, but it's a unique place, and I think one of the things that make it unique and maybe create the energy that it has here that allows the different paranormal stuff to go on. Maybe it's why it's a hot spot for UFOs, is because there was an ancient asteroid that hit here. Uh, you know, God, I forget how long now. I want to say a million years ago or whatever. And so the I forget the name of it. I actually got a piece of it here. I could grab it and grab the thing for you. But there's a special stone out there that creates, helps create a magnetic force. And so it, I think just the energy that that place has creates a lot of the uniqueness there and allows it to go on to where it can maybe lift the veil. Would just be enough energy for things to manifest there in the right way. But it is unique for sure. And there's activity everywhere. I mean, even Duchesne last year had a Bigfoot sighting. And people were talking about that. So, again, it's everywhere. I think 6-7 months ago, there was another Bigfoot sighting out in Logan. So truly, and that's was my whole thing about today's show with Ryan and Dave was to talk about the uniqueness of Utah and just the craziness that goes on here. I can't believe I moved into such a great hot spot where it's everywhere. I mean, there's a cool spot right just west of my house here, about 45 minutes away. It might be closer now since I moved, but it's called Gravity Hill, and gravity goes uphill.
I've heard of that, and I think there was a show. I think was if it was under Destination Fear, I think they went over there and they were like, all of them were getting headaches and stuff because of the gravity distortion, to where you feel like you're standing straight, but you're really at an angle.
Yeah, I think that's Montana, isn't it?
I think they
I'm
were
sure
in that
there's many
area.
places. I'm sure there's many places actually around this world like that. Because actually, I haven't been to the second spot, but I've heard there's two gravity hills here in Salt Lake area. One is downtown Salt Lake, and the other one is in a small town called Coppertown. And so it's really cool. I mean, I took Brad Olson there a few years back when we went for the first time. My friend's son took us over there, and you take your car and you pull down the hill to the bottom of the hill. You put your car in neutral, and the car will start rolling back up the hill. And I swear to God, we probably were rolling up that hill about 5 miles an hour. It was insane. We brought a basketball, put the basketball on the ground, and it started rolling uphill. You put water in the center, and if you know how roads are actually made with the peak in the center, so that way the water runs off the road. And so that's where the test was kind of funky, because when you pour the water, it would roll down that slope that the road's made on. But if you really look at it, it was still going uphill. So it's going down at an angle, if that makes sense. And unfortunately, at that time we went to go do this, I didn't have the right cameras to be able to film it correctly. Everything was too shaded. I filmed me and Brad in the car, but you couldn't really tell we were going uphill. So I'm going to bring some new cameras out there, and we're going to go out there and film, and I'm going to make a little small show on a little documentary on it. But it's really cool, man. It's just like, it's unique, and I've been trying to figure out, why in the hell would we go? The thing that really boggles my mind is I could see, something happen in the earth where it's magnetic. To take a rubber basketball where it's just rubber and air, and that rolls up people, that's where it starts really twisting my mind around, going like, what the hell is going on here? This does not make sense at all. It's crazy. Who knows? And even water, if it was magnetic, maybe the water would go uphill. But a rubber basketball, it rolls uphill. Pretty interesting.
I'm wondering, why do you think people say like they can't be in that situation for too long because they start getting headaches or migraines or dizzy and losing and I think some say they almost get close to where their eardrums rupture because their equilibrium is off.
We can all be sensitive to energy at different times, depending on what our state is at the time. And some people are just, especially when it comes to women. Women are more empathic than we as men, and I think that's more because they're connected to their feminine energy than the men typically are. Not that men cannot tap into their empath side. So when you're really sensitive to energy, and when I say empath, it could be anything. It could be anything that your body's sensitive to that energy. And so for me, when it comes to stones, hematite is my kryptonite. I cannot wear it. I remember when I was younger and I went to an Indian powwow and I found this cool hematite necklace. I was like, oh, this thing's so awesome. I bought it, put it on, and within a half hour, I had this massive migraine. And so, of course, then I started getting sick, so I took it off. And within a half hour, my migraine was gone again. But now that's a stone I can pick up at any time, and I can feel my energy instantly start to change. To me, I find it amazing because I don't really notice that with any other stones. I mean, now that I'm more in tune, I can pick up stones and start to feel their energy, typically without a problem. But that one instantly, as soon as I pick it up, and so it has something to do with me. It's a grounding stone, so I don't know, maybe I'm too grounded already, or maybe I'm not grounded enough, and I don't know. But it's my kryptonite. I stay away from it. So I think it's the same with other people, depending on how you're wired, what your belief system is, how you hold your energy, your heart. will make you susceptible to other energies. And so depending on what you're around, it can make you feel that way. And you notice that not at Skinwalker Ranch when you watch the series. A lot of people go to that ranch and all of a sudden start to feel horrible, and they have to sit down. They have that one special what is it, a Shiloh or whatever, that one round circular thing, the shed that they put everybody in all the time to allow them to balance back out.
Yeah, the silo.
Yeah, the silo, that's it. I'm a city boy from Vegas, so I don't know all those farmer terms. So
no, but when you say the hematite, I couldn't help but thinking in my mind, hematite is a magnetic stone, and they say masculine energy is more electromagnetic, so it could be the magnetism of the hematite doesn't mix with the electromagnetism of the energy field, and so that's why you couldn't wear it.
Yeah, whatever it is, that is definitely my kryptonite. That you put some of that around me, I'll get sick really quick. It's interesting though, because that goes to show you, dude, if you have that, if you can feel that, that shows you that everything around us really does have an effect to us. And do we notice it, and I could probably work on myself and try to figure out what is it with me that is making that reaction happen. And I should be able to, figure that out and resolve it in me, and then not have that issue, because there should be no issue with us on anything like that from what I've studied, because we are one. And when we have issue with something, maybe sometimes that's that separate feeling or belief that we're separate, that we're allowing that to happen, if that makes sense. Because I know when I go into negative energy or something that it just doesn't feel right, I try to just remember, hey, I'm made of everything, and so I blend with it. And so I feel sometimes when we have that harshness with that energy, where we don't feel good and all of that, sometimes we have to realize what's going on with the energy around us, and is it us feeling that separation and creating that separate feeling. Does that make sense?
It does. And I have to say too is, I have been around stones, and I don't, pay close attention to what they are, because, you're walking through the store. But yeah, there are times that I'll hit a certain aisle and I'm like, oh, I can't go down this aisle. There's just, this aisle is a no-go. And I will walk to the next aisle and it's like everything's totally fine. Which is strange, because most aisles, everything is back to back. So you would think whatever, if it is a stone, the energy would be on the other side too. But apparently, whatever stone they put next to it countered it. And it's like, hey, this stone makes me able to be around that stone.
Yeah, that could be too, because truthfully, we'll say some shout outs to some people out in the chat room really quick, and then talk about Dave real quick. But just a quick shout out to Dave Cruz out in the chat room, Doug Dragon Rose. I see Michael Koff in the chat room. Also, DJ Blue is out there. Jeanette, thanks for going into the chat room and hanging out with us. But Dave was talking about how he brings tourmaline with him when he goes off somewhere and stuff, and that's a great stone to have, because that tourmaline and obsidian and a lot of the other black stones, organite does it as well too, will negate negative energy and will absorb that energy into it, so you don't have to absorb it. So those are three really good stones to have around, like your electronics and stuff like that, so they absorb some of that EMF energy and you don't have to take it all in, right, depending on how you want to look at that. But one thing I always say, because the stones, all these tools we have are really cool, but remember, it's always in you. So like like with me, I have organite around my house and stuff like that. But it was kind of what I was reflecting to it just a little bit ago. If you feel like a negative in that energy, maybe it's you. So grab the stone, use the stone, feel the energy that stone gives you, but then start to learn how to take that energy, feel that energy, and then pull it into your heart, pull it into you, memorize and feel that energy, so you don't have to give your power to that stone or anything else, a medicine wheel, anything else, because you are the creative energy of all that is. You don't need these stones for all this stuff. It's us feeling disconnected that makes us feel I'm not strong enough to be able to do this on my own. So I need the stone. I need this. I need that. And believe me, I'm not picking on anybody because I do it. But the thing I say is let's use them as the tool they're designed to use for, and feel what that energy is, feel what it feels like to use that, and then realize that you control and you possess that energy. It's because, and that's what's funny. It's like, people make the medicine wheel and create the medicine wheel to maybe change the weather or whatever they're creating the medicine wheel for. Is it really the medicine wheel doing that, or is it the medicine wheel changes your belief system to allow you to believe it can happen? Because you feel you're separate from the universe and everything else. So you need the medicine wheel to all of a sudden feel connected with everything to allow this process to happen, and your belief system to finally go in line and realize that it could be changed. But you're using the tool of the medicine wheel to do it. But if you just understood this whole process and that belief, then you realize that you could change the weather all on your own, because the only thing that medicine wheel is doing is strengthening your belief system that it will be done, because now the medicine wheel is doing it. You took yourself out of the picture because you don't feel you're connected. Does that make sense? And
It
it's the
does.
same thing we do with stones, and we do it with everything in our lives. I mean, I do it all the time too, but when I identify with it, then it's like where I got to make that conscious decision. Wait, I can do this on my own. I can do this. And so, like, you're talking about going down that aisle and you feel, whoa, don't go down that way. It don't feel good. Well, I always say, trust your intuition. So if your intuition is telling you don't go down there, maybe you shouldn't go down there. Maybe something's going to fall off that shelf, hit you in the head, whatever. Feel the energy and make sure it isn't you putting something in your field to say, I'm not strong enough, I'm not good enough to be able to handle this on my own, or whatever that might be, if that makes sense.
It does. And I noticed in the chat, Dave Cruz gave us a question. And before I do that, I wanted to mention one of the guests, Heather Besser, that was coming on, messaged me just a few minutes ago that she has a really bad stomach virus. That's why she couldn't come on. So I just want to say we wish her well and a quick recovery, and acknowledge, we seen the message, and, thank you for letting us know. And so Dave's question, switching back now into everything, is, I think, an interesting one, because I've had an experience with this. Is he goes, what about crystal skulls? Same reaction? Both question marks. And so I do know crystal skulls have energy, and that there seems to be like a presence within it from my own experience. I'm curious your experience.
Yeah, for sure. There's a presence in it. There might even be its own there's its own consciousness to it too as well. But they're amazing things. They store energy. That's why we use quartz crystals in watches and computers to store information and store our memory. And so we obviously already know it stores memory. And so I don't know if you know the stories behind the crystal skulls or not, but basically what the Mayans say is that they store 1,000 years of information in there, and they embed 1,000 years of information in there, and there's 13 of them. And when the 13 come back together, which they supposedly are, that is happening in this present time, that the knowledge will be brought back to everybody, because they all hold a piece of the knowledge of our history. And so it's really fascinating. But again, like, if Dave's asking, do we need these? Like I was just talking about, is it a tool? Yes, it's a tool to store information. And yes, that tool will help us remember. But if we knew how to remember who we were, and we remembered how to truly connect to that energy of all that is, your higher self, you, because you are the creative energy of all it is. So if you truly know how to connect to that, all the information ever created, all the information ever in existence is everywhere, and we can tap into it at any given time. And if you know how to ask and you know how to listen, you're going to get the answer. That's what Tesla was doing. I mean, they say it was from alien race or whatever off the moon, and not the moon, but Mars. But maybe he's just connecting to his higher self. But maybe that higher self is in a being form somewhere else. I don't know. But you can connect to the higher energy of all that is, and you can download information. I mean, it's happening all the time, and so we can do it. We are all that is. We're just a spark of that energy. We're a fragment having a human experience right now, but truly we're all that is, and we know all this information, and that's why you can tap into it. That's why I can tap into you, Michael, and I could read your energy, and I could see and feel your emotions. I'm not at a point where I could read your thoughts, and I don't know if we'll ever be at a point where we could read thoughts like that, or at least from my opinion. I think when you actually go in and use telepathy, you're going to be reading the emotional the feelings. And so if I read what happened to you, I'd be basically reliving the way you experienced, the way you felt it. And so whatever you went through, I would feel it that way. And so, I think it's an amazing thing. So I don't know if we'll ever be able to read thoughts the way we look at it that way, but we're everything. And that's the thing. That's why we can remote view, because you are everything. And when you know how to let go and be part of all that is, you can see clearly. And you have to take your ego, you've got to take so much out of it. So to be able to actually see this way, to be able to let go of the tools and everything like that, you might have to do a lot of work on yourself emotionally. Because I know personally, when I worked on myself and started to release my resentments, my angers, and I had a lot of those for damn sure. And I mean, there's still programs within me on that and stuff that I have to deal with. Thank God they don't show very often at all. And that's mainly why they're probably still stagnant in me. But when I worked on myself, that's when my psychic abilities, and I just want to say there are other senses. They're not, anything special. They're just our other senses. We personally tuned out. Michael, you tuned out of yours. I tuned out of mine. Everybody else tuned out of theirs personally. When you choose to tune back in, when you choose to work on yourself, let go of your resentments, your angers, your insecurities, your jealousies, and all these different things that are just you being, not holding love for yourself. And that's the truth. When it comes to it, it's just you're not loving yourself enough in any of those ways that you feel incompetent. When you start to reinforce those, all of your senses, your psychic abilities, whatever you want to call them, they're going to start coming back, because then you're a pure conduit. I'm not going to be able to go and put my conscious into you, Michael, and read you if I can't look at myself honestly. Because if I can't do that, what I see inside you might hurt me and hurt me even more. And if you understand the body, consciousness, belief systems, everything's designed to keep you alive no matter what, so it might resist me and hold me back in life, but it's actually protecting me, if that makes sense. So a lot of our programs that are, people want to call negative programs, I just call restricting programs, because truthfully, they're just holding us back, but they're actually holding us back to keep us safe, because we don't want to hurt ourselves. And that's a lot of reasons why people become alone, because they're afraid to fall in love, because the love hurts. And, if I fall in love, then they're going to hurt me and I'll be heartbroken. But what happens when you're alone? You're heartbroken anyhow, because you're alone. So it's, a catch-22. So what do? Why not just love and risk it? Because falling in love is the greatest thing.
Exactly. And what's kind of interesting to me is while you were talking, I was starting to see blue around your head. just like blue light sparking off different spots. And I was like, it was kind of fun to watch because it was like it may be over on this side going, and then it would be on this side, and then it would be up here, maybe back over here, and it was like random, but it was like, yeah, I could. It felt like I could see the thoughts coming off of you. And while you were talking about that, one of the interesting questions I was going to ask your opinion of going back to the crystal skulls, because what's unique about them is they are flawlessly made. There is no cut marks, there's no point of start versus a point of finish. So I've always viewed them as a gift of the gods, so to speak, the aliens that brought them. Do you think that? Do you think that as well, or do you think the Mayans could have created them and they just use a technology that we have forgotten? Because it's really apparent our ancient ancestors were way more advanced than we are, even though we appear more advanced than they are.
That's a good question. I don't think any man, at least on this planet, made those. I think they're made by very high technology because I'm a stonemason by trade. And so I know what it takes to work with stone. I've never worked with quartz crystal in my life, but I can only imagine. I know it's super hard to deal with. It's easy to break and crack. I've worked with other stones like that. So, me personally, a lot of the stuff I see in the ancient ruins, we can't do. We couldn't do. We couldn't duplicate. You know, I mean, we're just catching up with the tools that we're making now to be able to do some of the stuff. But you look at Puma Punku and the inside 90-degree corners that are sharp as can be. We can't do that stuff, and we can't make these crystal skulls. So, in my opinion, they were definitely made off planet. Were they made consciously? Were they made with a conscious thought? I think is very plausible as well too, because of the purity of them and how perfect they are. You know, because I don't know how much you've studied into stuff like this, but you know, they even say, well, people have researched like John Volomelka talks about how Thoth created a pyramid, and you know the very last stone was actually the first one set because it was more made with consciousness, which I'm okay with. From what I've studied, I believe that's possible if you are that evolved where you know your connection with the creative energy of all that is. So I wonder sometimes, was it made with consciousness, and it was a conscious thought that created it in you know, created it in our existence. I think they're amazing things. We need to definitely study them more, and study them in the right way, and not give them to the wrong people to study, because we don't want them damaged at all. And I think we got to honor them and look at what they are, and go from there. I think they're amazing. Yeah, that's about all I could give.
No, I think you put it well said, that, you know, because so many people sit there and are like, you know, looking at a lot of the megalithic structures like Stonehenge and pyramids and saying, you know, oh, this is, you know, we totally could do this by doing this and this and this. And it's like, do you hear yourself? Do you, you know, you're talking about taking and building something that's going to take years longer than what you said it was already done with by using your system. And you're trying to tell us, yes, it was done this way in a shorter amount of time because they had more people to do it. It's like, I don't think so. It just
No,
doesn't add up.
there's
And
there's no, there's no way that they did it with what we're told in our history. There's no way at all. They're not even possible, in my opinion, because you can't do that. Like, we can't do it now. So if they're doing it with a copper chisel and a hammer, no. Let me tell you, I work with stone. I know it's not like you're going to take any type of thing and chisel into a piece of stone and carve out a whole mural of a hieroglyph and expect every piece of that stone to stay. No, you're going to hit a vein and all of a sudden it's going to chip and maybe a 2 foot by 2 foot section falls, but boom, that changes your whole story because now all of a sudden the rock's missing. How do you rewrite it right there and stuff, you know? We don't see any of those weird indentions like the rock fell off, then they restarted and filled it back in. That's not there. It's all perfect. And so it's, I mean, especially when you go to the Buddha temples and how they're done, how they're carved straight out of a mountain, not a stone added, not a stone, well, a lot of stones removed and mountain removed, but it's absolutely perfect. And so how did they do this? We don't have the technology to do this. So many amazing things. But I see, Michael, we're running out of time here. So, I mean, typically I wouldn't want to cut this off, but we got another show. So, we got Reperception coming up after us.
We do. And I was watching it too and thinking, oh man, we just hit a really good topic, but we're going to have to put a bookmark in it because, yeah, I don't feel we could give it any justice in 4 minutes of what's airtime is left, with having Reperception coming up next, which if you are a fan of the network, you're aware of that show, or if you're not, he pretty much says it's all roads lead to the placenta. One is fully accounted for from first inspiration until final expired breath. So that sounds like a really cool, interesting show, so you'll definitely want to stay tuned. That'll be the next 2-hour block in this really fun marathon that we're doing. And so I hope you all enjoyed this little, what's the word I'm looking for? When it's the unexpected surprise. I can't remember the term for that.
So, so if you don't mind, so Reperception is going to be on next with JP. So I know a lot of you guys out there for ETalk know JP. Wonderful. He was a wonderful co-host with Shift Happens, but now he's on ETalk doing his stuff. And so he's coming on with Wolfman next. We'll see. It doesn't really say here what they're going to talk about, but I can guarantee you, whatever it is, it's going to be good. JP is amazing, and he always brings on somebody interesting. So it's going to be a great show. I can't wait to listen in. I advise you to listen in. Well, I don't advise you, but listen in if you want to listen in, but because it's going to be great. JP never disappoints, man. So definitely tune in. And Michael, thank you for being let me be on here again. And I had a wonderful time, man. Great chat.
Yes, and thank you for allowing this show to participate in this year's Halloween marathon. And I will do a little shameless plug. You'll see me again tomorrow as Paranormal Versus comes on to air its 2-hour special episode with Catherine Sorlos and Andy Decodes, 2 guests that have been on our show that we feel like everybody really enjoys. And so we're going to have some fun having them on at the same time and just seeing where the show goes. And you'll get to enjoy our episode, and then you have Beyond the Strange right after us. So you got a really fun 4-hour block. If you're wanting to watch a 4-hour block, pick that one tomorrow.
Hey, wait. You can't just pick 4 hours. I mean, I think you got to do all 10 hours tomorrow. I start out the day, right before your show, I start out with Laura Eisenhower. And so we're going to talk some awesome spiritual stuff the first 2 hours. Then you're going to follow it up. Then Dave's going to come on, and Dave's going to rock it with Russ, and they're going to rock it there. And then after Dave's show, Dave shows from 2 to 4. Then I'll be back on again for a 4th time in this weekend, 5th time through the whole weekend. But I'll be back on again with ETalk TV Trivia, man. So join us from 4 to 6 tomorrow for ETalk Trivia, because I'm going to have Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. We're going to have JP, who's on next. They're going to be contestants, and we're going to also have Gigi, our special guest from Shift Happens, as contestants, and they're going to battle us on ETalk Trivia, man, so don't miss that at all.
That's cool, because I was wondering what that trivia was, because I saw that. I was like, trivia? Now that's cool. But man, now you put extra pressure on our show because we're following you and Laura.
Hey, man, you got talk trivia as well, too. And I got to have you on ETalk here really soon, too, man. So thank you again, Mike.
Yes, thank you. And we are going to take and sign out now and say thank you to everyone who came and participated with us in this. And so we will play our outro. And from our show to you, wherever you are in the world, have a great day, great night, and great afternoon. Bye-bye, everyone.
You have just listened to The Energy That Surrounds Us with your host, Michael Koff. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode.